Okay, so our first task is to bring the registration activity so that the user can edit the existing data. So first let me run my application, so how it looks like, then accordingly I decide putting the button. I have one emulator running still. Emulator. I have some trouble with this emulator. Okay, so I've just added the action bar, so we'll start checking what is action bar also. To put that action bar is pretty easy. I've added that only for register activity. Make sure instead of activity, make it just an action bar activity. So that will add a small navigation bar like that, a menu bar or whatever. Uh, Currently, Android recommends keeping an action. Recommends mean most of the design patterns. If you look at Android specifies or Android recommends, it contains action bar menu system, so that we can keep the back button or anything which where the user want to navigate back. So in the action bar itself, we don't need to have a separate button to dismiss the view. So here I'm going to use the action bar wherever, say almost for all the applications. So probably going to update everything with the action bar activity. Uh, when you try to create an activity by default, it will create as action bar activity only. So if you are creating a new one, you don't need to do anything. I'll just show how I can add a back button in the action bar itself. Then we can go ahead on the bundle and other stuff. So that your application name that can be changed. Anything can change. An image also can be put. So a new user. So I can put a small back button here. So user want to go back. Okay, I don't want to register anything now. Just go. I want to go back. He can click that back button. He can navigate back to the previous view. Uh, that's We can do it through a child and parent relationship of an activity also. Otherwise, we can simply have the activity stack created as usual, what we did now. Uh, Add a button, and that will eventually take the user back to a previous screen. To make that happen, so in the registration activity only, I want to see the back button. So what you need to do is first to get the instance of action bar. It's a menu, actually it's a menu system. You may notice two action bar, sorry, imports are possible. You can notice one here. Let me maximize. There will be two action bar imports. I would recommend we import the one Android support V7 app, something like that, because action bars were introduced around Android API level 15 onwards. A honeycomb version or something, I remember. I'm not pretty sure. But action bars were introduced pretty later. But for our testing device, most of the devices we are testing here is API level 8. So this particular compatibility package adds the action bar for lower version, starts from 7. So we have emulators already running in version 8. So this will show the action bar for lower end devices as well. I mean lower API level emulators or devices as well. So action bar, initialize it, get support action bar. In that, something I'm looking for up display, set display home as up enabled, set to true. It's actually a home button, but we are going to override its behavior to a back button. So set display home as up enabled mean, if you notice right now my action bar does not contain any button, but after I update this, see there is small arrows being present. So it just tells the guides like, okay, you want to go back, you can click it. Maybe this kind of design is highly inspired from iOS. iOS have a view controller system which is similar to this, but maybe okay. Android has deployed the material design along with that. So if you look at the click, it slightly looks uh, a kind of feel that as if you press on some sort of flexible material. Okay, so clicking this button, I want to take the user back. So Android action bar being a menu system, menu systems define three type of menus possible in Android: option menu, context menu, pop-up menu. Oh, that also we can include it along with that. So this comes under the category of option menu. Anything comes under the action bar, it comes under the category option menu. So there is a built-in event listener on option menu, on option items selected. All you need to implement that method. Since the return is expecting the super, so I'm just going to, just before, because return should be the last statement, and I'm going to put the if condition item get item ID. Usually the home button IDs are defined under the constant global constants. It is there in Android dot uppercase R ID home. It may have some sort of value like -1 or 1, but see, remember, it is not just r.id home. R.id home means it is local resources which is exclusive for your application alone. If you prefix Android, mean it is part of Android theme or part of Android total resource, because Android also have a global resources, background images, buttons can be reused, so it has their own ID convention also. So this particular home button has got an ID called android.r.id home. So if the user anytime click on that button, this particular block will get executed. I'm making sure the home button is pressed. I'm just going to issue finish. I just introduce the option bar, see action bar, because we had to see the options menus in detail, but only for back navigation I'm just putting it here. So once I click, the view gets dismissed. That's pretty clean. We don't need to maintain a specific button for taking the user back. So this will take care of dismissing it. This is a small introduction about your action bar, because the action bar would be very useful. Maintain the navigation specific things on the top always, and this is also kept on the top left, because if some user prefer to use one hand operation, they can simply take their finger on the top, so simply click on and go back, so whatever. So in that case, the back menu has been kept here. So action bar has put a button over there. Clicking the button, it's as if it option menu gets clicked. I'm making sure the incoming button ID is having an ID called android.r.id home, and then issue finish. Finish me that you get dismissed. So user will come back. Okay, so I think it's a new install. Here also we'll change the logout to this kind of action bar. I'm going to first time register. Okay, so now we have to give an option here somewhere, so that user will go ahead and edit the particular content. So let us see, we'll put small button over there. Say any other button. This is where the user usually logs in. So I'm going to put another button so that I'll bring back my registration data. So let me see the login activity. I'm going to add one button here. The logout, probably I use the logout itself, because I'm going to move the back button on the top. So I'll reuse the existing button for. Okay, so name. So this one I'm going to make it as we are calling it from here. I'll also rename it. Okay, we may need one more ID, so nothing sounds relevant. Make it as my account. So when the user click on the My Account button, we have to take the user back to a registration page where he can edit the details. So we have to make sure everything works perfect. I'll also implement the action bar here. Support action bar, display home as up enabled, so it will put a up button, and I'm going to need on option menu on option selected. Just before return method, I need to make sure this will take the user back, so it's as if a logout. And we have this method left for our registration data. Okay, so registration data, as usual, we know we already have that activity done for us. And start. This will open the registration activity, but it is not going to be it's going to be used for editing purpose. Editing mean it should populate already existing data, then user can override whatever values necessary. But I need to have a differentiation of calling this register activity, because this similar intent I'm calling for new user registration also. So the same thing I'm calling for new user registration. If you notice in the main activity, the same one I'm calling here also, but this is for new user registration, whereas the second one is going to be for edit purpose. So I need to make a small differentiation. To make a change, I may need help of one bundle object, a flag, say for your understanding, I just keep it as a flag itself. In this case, two way possible. One, in the main activity, which is going to be for new user registration purpose, I can modify in such a way, put extra registration edit flag set to false. It means it is not for editing purpose, it is going to be for new user purpose. So I'm setting it false because this is for new user registration. Okay, the same thing in this case. Put extra. I mean, this is for editing purpose. So the bundler object carries a flag, so it tells the opening activity whether it is going to be for edit purpose or new user purpose. So if the flag comes as a false, mean edit flag is false, mean it is for new user registration. If a edit flag set to true, mean it is for a existing user modification. So we have set the flag to differentiate. Now open the register activity. So on the top, get back your bundle, get intent, get extras. Okay, so So where all initialization happens. Maybe at the end, if sorry, few things. First, I need to make sure the bundle is not empty. This is a better approach always. Chances are there the bundle might not return any data. This is recommended whether you carry a bundle. If it doesn't carry a bundle, if you are expecting a bundle, make sure first line if a bundle is not empty. Then any specific exception error or wrong key errors won't come up at all if bundles are not packed. Then if bundle get boolean in this case, if it is true, you can discard the true, otherwise if you want you can write true also, both the same. Or you can, if you don't write, the if will be expecting a true flag instead. So it is for edit purpose. Now you need to retrieve all the data from your shared preference and attach them to the specific views. Okay, username, text, username, what do we have next? Gender. This has three choice, but only one would be, because selecting one will. Okay, anyway, we have to check. We are going to get 1, 2, 3 something, I remember, because we have set them as a number. Let me use the switch statement. Switch case also, we haven't used it quite long. In this case, the bundle, sorry, not the bundle, the registration date. Registration, get gender. It is going to give me a case 1, 2, 3, something like that. So switch means the case needed. The first one may be registration email. Okay. I hope you remember that switch case syntax. Okay. Case registration mail. Third one we don't need to specify. The default will get triggered, but okay, anyway, I'll keep that. Yes, chances are there. Registration transgender. Switch case would be more effective than the if else. If else will grow like as if, but I feel the switch case is pretty clean. But it's up to you, of course. There is no specific recommendation. But if a condition is too bigger, a lot of conditions or possibilities there, mean you can use the switch cases instead of if else conditions. If else if it will grow like that. Okay, so in that case, name itself female, set checked, set to true. This case is check set to true. The username, password, gender has been set. The final one is again simple, because we already saved them as a true false state only. So business set checked, registration. Anyway, it is going to return a true false statement only. So can directly use them. That's the reason I kept it as a is kind of thing, because it's my style of writing code. If I put is mean something, I'm expecting a true or false status. It's a naming convention style, so you can follow that similar strategy. Travel, what else? Education. That's it. So values would get pre-populated if edit flag is set. Otherwise, it will simply empty. The user will enter a new specific information. So that particular thing will be for edit purpose. This action bar can also put into use. Set title set to edit user. It will put edit user on the top. So there is a condition where it ends. If a flag is not set or bundle itself is not there, okay, we are anyway you're using the flag for both, so I'll use else. That makes sense. So if the user click on edit button, he will be shown the edit option, and with the head title heading also set to edit user. Or if the edit flag is set to false, mean it will come into this block, so it will display a new user registration. So the user will be taken to a new one. See, make sure uh, your timing of your calling your object is very important, because the object has to be initialized first. See, I made sure all objects are initialized and all views are ready, so that I'm using the bundle quite after everything got initialized. At the end, I'm attaching the values here. If you mistakenly, in this case, if you put it here, you'll get an error. Not only because of the action bar. You see, username, all a female, everything, or business, travel, everything you're trying to access, those things are getting initiated only after this block. So you will get exception error. So the order is very important. So it should be first initialized, then can be put into use. That's what I was talking about. Any object, not only declaration is enough, it has to be initialized so that the object can be put into use as a plain Java concept. So in this case, objects are getting initialized here, but whereas I'm trying to use the object here itself. So it will throw a exception error. Of course, the world famous null pointer exception, because there is object is not there at all. So the placement of the code also very important. You have to understand the object should be ready for usage, and this is the right place to put. Okay, time to test. So you see the new user title, and it will go ahead register a new user in such a case. This. So enter. Okay. I click on my account. If you notice, all things have been already populated. So I can change my username required, password, whatever required. So let me change the password. And change the different choices. Really, if you don't want to change the gender here. Okay. Register. Log out. We put same password first. It won't allow me because I updated the password. New password. allows me. So my account takes the user for editing purpose. I think this also we can change it, the text also. So this will be nice because it doesn't look if I display a register. So I'll do one thing. First I define a string. Okay, update. In the login activity, there is a button. Sorry, register activity. I think here. So it's already having an ID. So I'm changing the text to what's the ID for this? Register. So register will have a different text. Set text get string dot string dot update. You can put a get resources dot get string, both will work, but it is not required. Get string. And this will be okay. This I don't need to update. Only for edit it is going to look like update. The text will slightly get modified so that it looks like very relevance to the context what we are seeing. So user nothing has got changed. I have a word update here, so it looks pretty relevant here because I'm trying to update the content here. It is a Android theme which is updating all the text into uppercase. You're not doing anything. It just if you're testing on the latest emulator, you will get into this scenario. But in your emulator, which you're testing on the API level 8, this kind of thing won't be there. And I also noticed there is a bug in API level 2.2 and the layouts are slightly left aligned even though you try to give a right margin and padding. Maybe some sort of system specific bug, but apart from that you can still use them. Of course these things will still work on your lower end emulators such as API level 8. So now we have added a back button and which dismiss the existing view. Okay, so this is one side or one way of uh, sending the data between the activity. And there is other workaround is also there to bring the data from uh, to be closed activity. Mean the activity is going to get closed, but before closing, you want to send the data to a previous activity, then gets closed. So in that case, is there any other way we can do it? Yes, we have a way. For that, I'll slightly update the UI. Leave a message. Okay, that's fine. This is a login activity. I'm going to add a small edit text here so that I type something here and then I say leave a message so that once he click that particular button, that message is taken back to a previous activity and this activity gets closed. So let's see how I can make that work. This text view is slightly bigger. We'll make it, it's a linear layout. So linear layout will try to spread the content. So in this case, match parent. Okay, I'm going to need some Okay, we decide about the text. Make it as a generic button clicked, so that I can use the same. I need an ID for this to differentiate. A message send something. Okay, so fine. We need some sort of text here. So time to update our strings file. It may look slightly redundant for you to move between various XML, but I would recommend keep everything organized from the beginning itself rather than adjusting the hard-coded values at the end of your development. It is recommended anytime you introduce a string, update this resource file. From there, you reference it. So from the beginning, our code will start looking modular in that case. So okay. Enter message. Okay. Let's see how the design looks like. I really don't like this without margin. Okay, maybe put some sort of margin. So the login activity, I renamed it. So it is button clicked. Since this same method is going to be used for two methods, I will use a switch case now because too much of usage of if else trying to get introduced to another conditional statement. So view get ID case dot ID. What's that exactly? The first button. One is message sent. Another one is actually it's called my account. Anyway, at the end it is going to get finished, but just before finish it is going to send a message to the previous activity. If I remember, let me try. uh, for bundler object I may need a key, so first I'll create a key. Remember, I'm using this class alone for updating all my constant here. So like that you may maintain one particular class to keep your constant away from your program logic. You can preferably create a interface for that, so keep all your constant over there or any other class if you feel, because I feel this particular class is used for utility purpose, so I keep all the keys here so I can directly refer from here. So I'm going to need a key which is going to carry the message. So just entered a new key or a constant. Time to inform it. Use the same intent. This time empty because it is going to get closed. It doesn't know who the destination is. It simply broadcast a message, but whomever the parent class or parent activity will pick it up. Intent, put extra. In this case, registration message. The message which is going to be from the edit text, I have to initialize the edit text here. Drop button. It should be global because I'm accessing outside. Okay. Set result. Here I need a couple of things, intent and some sort of code also needed. Okay, some sort of integer needed. So let's see. First I set result. I'll hard code it to start with. Say I'm sending the result with the ID 100, any ID, any number, unique number, and the intent. That's it. I created an intent and attached the additional payload and set the result to a particular ID and parcel them. That's it, set result, and the activity gets closed. So who will capture this value? Of course, the parent activity can capture if it knows this particular ID. So we have to catch them. So intent being used twice seems to be. But in fact, I really don't like having a hard-coded value. I'll do one thing. It was result code, right? We really don't want to keep any hard-coded values anymore. So result code. So registration. Okay, so now okay, I think the ID is wrong. That it text. This one, right? It is leave message. Yes. Message send is actually for button. Activity. That looks fine here. Now need to capture them into this activity. I need to have a text field so that I can capture the message here. So I can capture here to this button. Text view, I'll keep it. I'm not going to keep any text because that will be dynamically populated. I'm going to keep a gravity to send to center. There is a text field exists, but I haven't added any values because if at all user logs out and put a message, that will be displayed. Otherwise, it will be hidden only. I mean, it won't be shown at all. Time to add this also here. Okay. Activity already contains a method to capture the bundles which is coming from activity which is launched by the very same activity. That method is called on activity result. All you need to implement this method. Remember, there is a override annotation because this method is there in the activity or action bar activity wherever. The same method I am implementing because it has a capability to capture the messages sent by the activity which is launched on the top of it. So once that particular activity get dismissed, this particular function will be called, and it will also give the data back, hand over the data here, and I can capture them and display wherever necessary. But the problem here is it requires one more code. I already have a result code, but I don't know what is request code. So one more code needed. Things are getting complicated at this point. Let me introduce it. Then I'll let you know why I needed this additional code. That code is called request code. Request code. You can give any number, or maybe I'll just give a request number. The request code means you are launching an activity which you are expecting a result to come in. So chances are there the activity which is launched by this activity, the main activity, may or may not return a result. Because if you notice the stack, the way we have designed, when I enter the username, what do you call, 30 something, I had to update the code ID. Okay, here the button is going to be there. The user may type something and click the button so that the message should be sent back to the user. Otherwise, the user simply click the back button to dismiss the view without sending any message. So there are two possibilities. The activity launched by the main activity may or may not return a result. So in that case, if the activity you are launching, you are expecting a result, you need to say, you need to do a slight modification. In this case, this is where the login activity being launched. uh, you need to change it as start activity for a result. You're expecting a result now. So first argument is the intent, and the second one is the request code. That's one we just created. Registration, request code. It means I'm launching an activity. I'm expecting a result to come in. So in this case, again the possibility, if the request code in this case equal to registration, it means the very same activity which you launched, it's closed, but it also carries a result code. Then it contains some valuable data coming from there. So to tell that, put a toast message. If you do not get the result code, it simply return back no messages. If it is coming with the specific result code what you just sent, then it carries some information. I'm going to make this as a global. Incoming, sorry, first I need to get the bundle back. There is an intent already available here. So data, get extras. And still better practice to make sure the bundle is not empty. And then display the incoming text, set text, bundle, get string, registration, message. Get back the message of the previous activity and display uh, from wherever it is necessary. And if you do not receive any message, it is important to empty the message also here. This is blank. So there is no data and the message would be set to blank. So the currently opened activity, just before it gets closed, it sends the message to the previous activity and then gets closed. How? It is through this method, login activity. If you see, it does some work. It create a bundle object, compose a message, keep a parcelable object ready, and that has been attached to a result code, and the specific result code should be unique, and the intent is set result, and finally gets closed. Even just before getting closed, it is putting a parcelable object and keep it in the result code. That same result code could be captured by the main activity by checking the incoming result code, and before that it has to send the request code because it is expecting a result from an activity which is about to get opened. If you do not specify a request code, you cannot expect a result code. So when you expect an activity which is going to return a result, you have to always start the activity with the word start activity for a result, and you need to give a request code in that case. That's also should be unique. The request code to launch an activity where you are expecting a result uh, which is going to be returned once the activity is going to get closed. The request code could be checked, but after checking the request code, that particular activity may or may not return the data. If the activity returns some data, you will have the result code, specific result code. Otherwise, if there won't be a specific result, something else will come. In that case, you can make sure it doesn't contain any value. So we are going to see that fact. One scenario one, I may not click this button. I can simply go back. There is no message from the previous activity, no result came because I did not compose anything. I simply came out. But scenario 2, I may compose. If you notice, the same message has reached to the previous activity. In this case, it brought the data from the activity which was launched by the very same activity, and it is just before that particular activity get displayed, it transported the data here, and right now it is displaying in this case. So when the user logs in, he may click back or this one. In that case, it won't return any data and you will not see any text, no message being sent. But if at all user compose some message, say, then this would be taken back. So this particular example, we not only send the data from one activity to another activity, which was pretty simple, but we can also bring the data back from the previous activity to the one of activity which just launched that activity. But in that case, you need to do a slightly a complex technique, because one of the activity is going to get closed, so it has to notify the previous activity stating that I'm getting close, but before that I want to send some data back to you. In that case, I need to modify my code in such a way activity is launched with the request code, the response is received using a result code. So I am going to need two codes if I am expecting a result from an activity which is going to get launched by a parent, and when the particular activity gets closed, it has to return not only the request code, of course, the result code as well. So to get the data back from one of an activity, you are going to require two codes. One code is for request code, that you would be needing it while you launch the activity, and when the activity is launched with the request code, may or may not return the data. In such a case, if it is returning any data, you will get back the specific result code. Otherwise, there won't be. There may be a different result code. So in that case, I can make sure the value is not there. So things are going to get complex in this case. You would need a practice, of course, to get an idea about how this thing is going to work. If you notice, there are plenty of constants now growing, but I'm still maintaining the modularity because I'm separating the logics bits and pieces, and I'm defining it very clear. Even though if somebody read the code, he may have a little idea about, okay, so this is something he is trying to set true or false, or this is something he's trying to set the value or retrieve the value or something like that, because the naming convention what we follow, it's pretty straightforward. Plus The object naming convention also I followed in such a way. Relevant names have been given to an object so that I understand what's being done. And in this case, updating and new user registration also been done using a flag. Otherwise, for new user registration, you can completely get rid of the bundle itself if required, but it's up to you. To bring the data back from a activity which is getting closed, you need to implement the method called onActivityResult, and which will have a request and result code, and the instance of the intent will also be there. After the super on activity result, you have to put your if condition, making sure you are getting the same request code of the activity which you launched, and after getting the request code, you have to verify it is also returning a result code. If it is returning a result code, there will be incoming values. If there is no or some other result code are coming, mean there won't be any incoming value. So this is how we get the data back from one activity to another. So this example does both. I'll give maybe whole day tomorrow to clear your backlogs. I want to make sure you are complete. You have completed up to this part at least, because the next part it will be even more complex. So we have to get used to the complexity. So for that, I'm trying to give you some sort of timing. So you take your time, make sure you complete this, understand what is result code, request code, and one of my case study which involves on the result and request codes technique itself. So it's going to be a concept also, and make sure you understand the concept behind what's that key value pair. So what, how we follow the convention here. Okay, so let's upload the source code.